In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. Dear audience, this is Dr. Khurram Shahzad from National University of Modern Languages. In this class, I will be talking about clause. And usually a question that is asked in examination, that is, what are the properties of a clause? So by the end of this video, you will be able to get the answer of this question. Remember, clause is a sentence. An independent clause is a sentence. But when there are more than one clauses, we can have a bigger sentence. So in syntax, now it is important that we should know what is a clause. Usually a sentence, it has subject, verb and object. In English syntactic structures, we can say S can consist of NP, VP and another NP, which is optional in nature. All clauses, they are basically sentences. Ahmed works hard. Shan plays cricket. These are independent clauses and at the same time they are sentences. But if I add a word before if Ahmed works hard, now it is no more a sentence because I have added the word if, and the if has converted this independent clause into a subordinate clause. For example, if Ahmed works hard, he may pass the exam. If Ahmed works hard, he might pass the exam. If Ahmed works hard, he will pass the exam. So this is how in these three sentences that I have spoken, there are two clauses. If Ahmed works hard is a subordinate clause and Ahmed may pass the exam or he might pass the exam or he will pass the exam is an independent clause. So these two clauses are joined together and we get a complete sentence. On the other hand, if I speak only this, Ahmed works hard, Ahmed plays cricket, these are independent clauses and they are complete sentences. Now in this video I am following Jim Miller and Jim Miller talks about some of the properties of a clause. Let's read from Jim Miller and then analyze the properties of the clause. Remember, this is an era of corpus linguistics. So author Jim Miller is bringing examples from the corpus which is developed of novels. So these examples may seem awkward in the context of Pakistan, but let's read them. Wickham eloped with Lydia. Mrs. Bates chattered on for hours. So these are the two independent clauses and complete sentences. Each clause contains a finite verb. That is a verb marked for tense. So let's read the sentence again. Wickham eloped with Lydia. So Wickham eloped, it has got ed, and ed, it is telling us that this is the past form of the verb. So it means that this clause is telling us about the time. So first property is the finiteness of the clause. All clauses, all sentences that we speak, they talk about the time. They tell us whether the clause is written or spoken in present tense or past tense or in future tense. So eloped with Lydia telling us that it is in past form. So it means that finiteness of the clause is that it is talking about time and the time is past. Moreover, we should remember that clause also talks about person and number. Though most of the verbs in English, they do not talk about person. But some of the verbs like be. So I am, you are, they were, he was, you were. So here, when the verb be, it changes its forms, we come to know that what can come at the place of the subject. Am is the first form of be along with is and are, but am is used with the first person. Are is used with the second person, that is you, or plural. Ahmed and Shan are. And was or were, they are used in the past. So was is used with singular. He was, she was, Ali was. And were is used with plural. George and Ahmed were. So in this way, finiteness of the clause is not just talking about time, it is also telling us about person and number. So sometimes in first person we have singular, I am. We have plural, you are. It means more than one person as well. So finiteness of the clause is the first property of a clause. The second property of a clause is each clause is marked for aspect, and the aspect can be changed. Compare Vikram was eloping with Lydia as opposed to Vikram eloped with Lydia. So sometimes we have indefinite, aspect, sometimes we have continuous aspect, and sometimes we have perfective aspect. So in continuous form we have helping verbs is, am, are. I am teaching, you are listening to me, they are playing cricket. And in past form, they were playing cricket, you were listening to me, he was speaking to you. So here, this is the continuous aspect. Ahmed has completed his job. Vakar has completed his essay. This is the perfective aspect. So all kinds of clauses, they talk about aspect. Number 3 is, in each clause, the finite verb is accompanied by its complements and adjuncts. Of course, complements I will be dealing with in my next videos, and adjuncts or complements, both of them are being discussed with the help of prepositional phrases. Usually we have got time adverbials here or place adverbials here. Remember, the difference between a complement and adjunct is that complement is the necessary part of the clause. On the other hand, adjunct is the optional, extra part of the clause. So later on in the coming video, I will talk about them in detail. The fourth property of the clause is that each clause has mood. Mood has to do with two sets of distinctions. First, there are distinctions between making statements. Vikram eloped with Lydia. Asking questions. Did Vikram elope with Lydia? Issuing commands. Elope with Lydia. And the second set of distinctions has to do with whether the speaker or the writer is expressing possibility. You may leave. Vikram may elope with Lydia. Or necessity, you must work hard, you have to complete this assignment. So in mood we have got either stative sentences, representative sentences, interrogative sentences, and secondly we can have possibility, probability, or necessity. And already I have talked about possibility or necessity in the video about semantics. The next property of a clause is that they allow that there should be a reflection of changes so far as the focus or emphasis is concerned. Never will Vikram elope with Lydia. With Lydia, Vikram eloped. It is also called inverted subject. So sometimes, in order to give focus to something, we may change the common arrangement of the sentence. For example, the sentence is, a hermit lives over the hill. So this is, subject, verb, and over the hill prepositional phrase. But now I can invert the arrangement of the sentence and I can say, over the hill lives a hermit. So here the focus is on over the hill. Here the emphasis is on over the hill. So this kind of clause is called inverted clause. So sometimes we are making use of a clause where we take care of that what we intend to focus on, what we want to emphasize on. So of course, the speaker's emphasis, the speaker or writer's focus can be different from whatever you are expecting or you are thinking about. The next property of the clause is that it can talk about participants. It requires events. It talks about events. It talks about circumstances. This concept is coming from systemic functional linguistics. So you should remember that I have already made a video about, thematic roles. So there I talked about 7 or 8 different kinds of thematic roles. Like we have got agent. Right now I am making the video, I am the agent. I am doing the work. And something which is affected by the work of the agent is called patient. So they are the participants of the event. So any event that you are enacting, that any topic that you are discussing, okay, it is enacted through discourse. And circumstance is, in systemic functional linguistics, the prepositional phrases where you can talk about the time or the place. Well, the last property of the clause is that both can be the first contribution to a discourse, whether spoken or written. Clearly, this rests on presupposition about the audience knowing who Vikram, Lydia, and so on are. Of course, we are talking about the participants of the discourse. In any kind of discourse, whether it is written or spoken, there are participants, there are people who are doing different kinds of jobs, who are performing different kinds of roles. My role is of a teacher in the university, but at home I am no more a teacher. There I can be a brother. So remember, whenever any event is enacted, the roles of the participants, they are determined. And clause, it talks about that who is participating in the enactment of the event. Dear audience, remember, I have talked about the properties of the clause. So clause talks about finiteness. Clause talks about person number. Clause talks about, mood. Clause talks about the participants of the discourse. Thank you very much.